Got it. Share dashboard. Okay. All right. Again, this is the lab video, and we're going to show you where to go to get your case studies. So for example, you're in this class, click it. If you're not, you can click any of these other, well, this is my dash, never mind. But you go to your dashboard, you click the class that you're in for A&P, you go to files, and here are some stuff. Here's where I'll be posting pictures and stuff for the lab. Here's Pearson registration instructions, there's PowerPoints. And here we have now case studies and learning videos. Okay, great. So what we need to do is these will be some of your assignments. These case studies, I'll be asking questions. You might have to give an abstract version of how tetanus occurs. You're gonna have to write it up, look it over, maybe 10 points. But either way, it's going to be an assignment and I'll be gauging you. So this is not going to be some sort of like auto correction thing where I'm going to be using keywords. Like, I don't think that's the way to do it. Yes, it's more work on my end, but that's the way I think it should be done. Because a human, I can kind of gauge what you're trying to say. So I think it's to the student's best interest that I grade each one personally and I read through them. So for example, an assignment may be explain the mechanism behind the symptoms of tetanus, meaning why is it that someone who has Clostridium tetani goes into this convulsion-like state? And you're gonna have to explain, okay, this individual maybe have had contact, broke through the skin kind of deep with something maybe metal-like that had Clostridium tetani, some tetani. And as a result, you go through the whole process. You talk about the bacteria, the release of spore, then toxin. Then what does the toxin do? Is it going to go retrograde? Is it going to go anterograde through various parts of the neurons? Where does it go to the neuromuscular junction? Why is it causing the muscles to spasm versus relax? In other cases, I may be asking you, I may be asked more simpler situations. The next one may be, what are the symptoms of tetanus? What is the approximate duration of symptoms for tetanus? Meaning you have contact, you don't know it yet, but you're out somewhere, step on a nail, step on something metal-like. It doesn't always have to be a nail, and it's rusted, it's old. How much time do you have until the onset of symptoms? Very important. Because some of you will be nurses, you're going to be writing this down, and you need to say, oh, okay, this happened to you. When did it happen to you? Okay, what, yesterday? Okay, we still have some time. We may not see onset onset of this muscle spasms yet. Oh, what happened a week ago? No, you don't have it, but let's still do the vaccine for it. See what I'm saying? So that's how you need to be thinking of these things, of course. I think far too many times, I think nurses, like, they'll give you vaccines and you ask them, I ask them, oh, well, how was this help me? And they don't know. Like, why are you putting it in me if you don't know what the thing you're putting in me works? It's like taking your brakes to the mechanic and he changes your brakes and you ask the mechanic, can you explain to me how you have a rotor and how these brake pads, you know, how they come in, right? How the calipers of that works and how you press the brake and how this happens. And the guy's like, I don't know, I just put them on. How would you feel? How would you feel, Madi? How would you feel about that? Like, I just put them on.
I would be like, well, then don't give me the shot.
Yeah, and Alan, if you took your breaks, would you feel great that someone said, well, Alan, I just put them on. I don't know how they work.
I wouldn't feel too good about it.
Yeah, you wouldn't feel too good about it, right? And Araceli, she's like, they tell me that all the time, you know, and she just rolls off, right? So if you worry like that about your car, can you imagine having this running through your veins that's supposed to initiate some sort of immunological response? yeah, we need to stop. We need to ask, right? How does this work, right? Remember, you never tell anyone something as a healthcare provider that you don't know. For example, when someone says, um, make sure you don't give honey to infants beyond this, from this date to this date. And then the person says, oh, but why? And you don't know why, but you told them not to have honey? What are you going to say? Just because? Look that up, guys. Look that up. Maybe be a little bonus thing. Why is it that at a certain age group, they're not supposed to have honey? What is the potential risk of giving someone honey? There must be a reason, right? So you never say something unless you know it 100% backed up. So think of that one. So let's go back and let me share. Am I back in the case studies, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, because that was, I could, okay, great. All right. Here's some other ones for mechanisms of tetanus, and so that's, won't go through that. Physiology of multiple sclerosis, MS. Understanding the roles. Remember, this is an immunological response, meaning the immune system is doing something that it should not be doing, and it's going to be messing up the myelin sheath. These discuss that. How is this happening? Okay. Now, you might want to start out with this one first, just a little FYI. This more like cartoon related, like using little ninjas and stuff to explain it. So this one's probably your best bet to understand multiple sclerosis, and then go here and here or here or there, either way. But both of these, the first two guys, are going to be very in depth, talking about B cells and all this other types of cells in terms of immunological responses. So please make sure that if you don't get it the first time, pause, take a deep breath. Don't panic. Just watch it again as many times as you need to get the understanding of this. And this all ties in. I think some of you are going to watch these videos and be like, hey, you know what? I am learning. I am actually grasping these concepts. And if I would have watched this video before this class, I would not even know 50% of what I know now. So if you feel that way, you're in a good place. Also, what I want to do is I just picked an insecticide randomly. Picked an insecticide, and this video will show you that the basics understanding that we have of CNS and other things associated with that, ion channels, for example, and action potentials have a place in terms of the mode of action, also known as the mechanism for an insecticide. So I just wanted to bring home the topic and the understanding of CNS and how it even applies to other things like insects that are far, far, far from the human species. So that's what that was about. Now, this individual here, who's these last three. So toddler chewed on lead paint off his toys, and this is what happened to his brain. Grandma ate 1 pound of chocolate in 6 hours, is what happened to her brain. A man ate 100 zinc vitamin C gummies every day. This is what happened to his spinal cord. This individual is a toxicologist. You'll probably know how him and I have a lot of similarities in the way we discuss things. So watch those, understand it, because your assignments will be based off that. Okay, your assignments will be based off it. Now, in terms of, let's get back now, in terms of identification. Okay, what's this? What's this part of this brain? This is myelin sheath. This is a dendrite. This is an axon. This is a Schwann cell. Like all those things, that's more lab exam related. Because I will give you those images for you to do, but I really don't think labs should be heavily. I should be like, look, this is this is that, this is this is that. I will do it a little bit, but that's more independent. That's more independent in terms of learning what certain anatomical locations are called. I'm more of the let's in labs should be more, and when I'm involved again, a large part of labs, when we do have labs, are for students to interact with other students and have dialogue in terms of certain objectives and work together, sometimes individually, most of the time together. That's usually what I would say 80% of it. But 20% I do a form of a lecture, sometimes more percent depending on where we are. So what I want to do is I want to take a look at, let me go share screen. Go to your you know what? I'll put the link for you. Why not? Oh, I don't even have to do that, but okay, I'll do it. Just so you don't even have to go to Canvas, I'll just throw the link onto the chat. Where did you guys go? I'll do a stop share. All right, so that one is, let me take a look in terms of the time. And I can't go through all of them because that's it's quite a bit of chatting. But I would like to just at least cover two of them. All right, so the video is approximately, it's 12 minutes and 37 seconds, no commercials in there. So let's come back in 15 minutes. Come back in 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up to discussions, and I'll ask some questions. Volunteer, you know, you just contribute if you like, and I'll watch it with you. I've already seen this one before, but I'll watch it. That way I can gauge my time correctly, and we'll come back. We'll convene here. So take a look at it, and we will come back and we will chat about it. Okay. So after watching that video in terms of toddler and lead poisoning, what are some of your thoughts that you want to share?
I didn't know that if a mother had lead poisoning earlier in her life when she was pregnant, it could go to the baby later on when
Mm-hmm.
she's pregnant. Line.
Okay.
I was shocked about how much lead was in juices for the children, like in toddlers. That freaked me out. I did not expect that.
Yeah, that's good, Jocelyn. That point is a very good one. Juices are, and that's one thing that it depends on parenting as well, parenting skills. But some doing the right thing is never easy, ladies and gentlemen. All right, never easy. Meaning, uh, kid wants chicken nuggets, right, and fries, and you have broccoli and some other veggies and maybe some grilled chicken, and it's never easy making them do the right thing. Don't ask me the why. It's just odd that the universe works that way. Now, going back to the juices, yes, it's something that people do need to be cautious of. However, as mentioned, those levels have been declining. They have been declining. So we have to still be cautious of that. If a kid's just juice, well, more importantly than I think lead would be that the individual is not drinking water, which he could have some sort of he or she could have renal failure, meaning i.e. kidney failure at some point, right? That's first. Then later comes lead. So yeah, juices. So everything in moderation. All right. What else?
The permanent brain damage.
Yeah, permanent brain damage. Can't change that. And why is it that we can't change that? Those cells, right? Amitotic cells. We cannot after certain parts of the brain, even though he's developing. Look at that. He's a young kid and still some of them cannot be reversed. Right? So that's a problem. What else? What in that video did you see that you're like, oh wow, I know what that is. I've seen that.
When the lead displaces the other the protein.
You're on the right track, Mark. Keep going. It's not displacing a protein, it's displacing something else. That's a very good word, displacing, and we're going to talk about it. But it's not displacing a protein. You're right. It's going to have some effect on a protein, but it's not displacing a protein. What is it being exchanged for, which means displace?
Is it the mitochondria that it said?
No, that's not what is exchanging. What's being exchanged? Displaced.
The calcium?
The calcium. Yes. Now we're going to get into Mari's thing a little bit, and then we're going to get into Mark's thing a little bit. Why was it displacing the calcium? Melissa?
Because as you grow, you need more calcium.
Close, but there was something.
Or children.
What's that, Ivy?
That the children need more calcium because they need to grow.
That's close, and he does get into something about that topic, but that's not the reason why it was being displaced.
It's because of the charge.
Because of the charge. What do you mean the charge, Johnny?
Lead is divalent cation, which is 2 plus, and
Correct?
calcium is 2 minus, which reacts. Which
No, no, actually calcium is a plus charge. Plus two.
whoops.
No, they're the same. Two same charges. So exactly.
Oh, okay.
So then now going to Mark's thing, where remember the image of the synapses, right? The synaptic cleft and the calcium coming in. So you have the action potential coming down the axon to the axon terminal, calcium on the outside, the voltage comes, the protein allows them to go in, then the calcium goes in, allows the vesicles that contain a neurotransmitter to be released past the axon to the receptors on the other side. You remember that part, right? Give me some nods if you remember. Yeah. Right? So is calcium's a +2 charge. So is, and now if we go back to Johnny's situation where he said it's a -2, then they wouldn't be changed. Then they would actually, if calcium was a -2, it would be game over and we wouldn't have lead poisoning because that would result in a cancellation. 2 negatives, 2 positives would result in a cancellation of lead poisoning, which is why later we talk about the chelation and how we're going to get this thing out of the body. So it's a +2 charge calcium, so is lead. So as a result, it competes. So when that action potential goes through, opening the proton channel, in goes the +2 charge, but it's not the calcium now, right? It is lead, some calcium, some lead, of course, right? Right, both. And then, boom, now, Marty, go. With your mitochondria. What happens to the mitochondria?
Oh, it gets into the mitochondria, which is I think it said something about the ATP.
And yep, so it does.
So it mimics everything and it starts shutting everything down. Something like that.
Doesn't mimic everything, but it causes the mitochondria not to function, and the role of the mitochondria is to produce what? You said those 3 words, Marty. What is it?
ATP.
There you go, right? And without ATP, what happens to the brain? Cannot function, right? Can't function. So then you can't carry out all these other tasks that the brain needs. We know that the brain needs ATP often. So this poor kid, for who knows how long, is chewing on these toys from Nana's toys, taking in this lead. Mom doesn't figure it out yet till way, way later. And now this is affecting his ATP production in his brain, resulting in neurons that are no longer functioning and potential degradation of neuron function, which is irreversible. You can't change those neurons once they're no longer working and they're dying. Remember, ATP is not just to communicate. ATP is to create myelin sheath. ATP is to maintain myelin sheath. ATP is to maintain the cell body within the neuron. ATP is for everything. It's the currency which all biological work is paid, right? That's the money of the body, right? Just think of it like, the Benjamins, think of it like that, right? That's what the body needs, that ATP, right? It's not working for free, just not going to work for free. So that is the key here, okay? So what else do you guys take away from the video? So far, so good. What else? You are doing a great job, by the way. Really good. Ivy had a real good point in calcium. Her point will take place in some other videos in which there is another toxin, another thing that's going to be happening in the body in which a person's going to get a very brittle skeleton. We're not going to hit this till we hit the skeletal system. And what happens is they're young and their bones begin to break. They fall and they break. And why the hell are they falling and breaking? Like, what are they, glass man, or what's going on here? Well, it goes back to what Ivy was saying. You need calcium and for some reason, the calcium is going to be leaching out, trying to bond over here. And we'll get into that once we get into the skeletal system. We get into that. All right, what else? Because there was plenty of other things, but you guys have the basics. Where else can you find lead? Is it only in toys?
No, everywhere in paint.
There,
Really,
paint.
everywhere it said in food.
Certain foods, mainly in paint. You're right. Paint's the main thing. Like, not juices. Yes, you can be found in juices. Yes, Jaslyn's correct. But it's really gonna be in the paint, and that's how come it's illegal now. You can't just go find lead paint. Like, you cannot go to a store and get lead paint. Good luck. No, it's not gonna happen. Are there still some industries that use lead paint for certain things? Yes. Yes. And guess what? They have to have permits. They have to have certain PPE. We all know what that is now, personal protective equipment, right? They have to have PPE. And when they spray this stuff on for certain equipment, okay, it's still out there. But and it does a great job of having the paint stick onto something. So I'm not gonna say which industry uses it, but let's just say down south where it gets hot and paint chips away. You don't want it to chip away because it could rust a certain thing that's transporting a certain thing that's very important and could be explosive if it releases. So you want to make sure that that thing is covered with a paint that's protective. That's the whole point of painting something like a metal, right? Okay, what else?
It mentioned gasoline too.
Yeah, gasoline. Ever wondered why you go to the gas and it says unleaded gas? Well, if it says unleaded gas, there must have been leaded gas. How many of you knew that? There's a thing called methyl short butyl ether, but we won't get into MTBE. We don't get into that. But yes, so you'd be pumping in right there. You would get exposed to the vapors. You'd have lead. Even though it's heavy, you would still get exposed to it. During combustion, you're hanging out. Gases. Get combustion going through mufflers. Lead. It would rain. It's raining. You're driving. Boom. Water would bring down the lead. It would get into water systems, things like that. Yeah. So where else? You said gasoline, but where else can it be found? There was something.
It mentioned water, and I think it was soil.
Yes,
something
you're right.
with the ground.
Water. Now, can it be found in soil? Absolutely. But how many of you are eating lots of dirt? Children are gonna eat, but water? Wow. Now you're gonna now have more potential for exposure. You always remember this equation that I'm always gonna be asking you. It's not in the exam, but it could be in the next one. Now, risk equals a function of exposure and effect. Now, some of you, like guys like Mark, might want to go explore some more stuff. So before they go and explore the World Wide Web, I want to show you something.
Dr. D,
Yeah,
lead pipes.
there you go. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in the water. Just trying to find you a source real quick. When you look for something and it ain't there like the way you want it. Interesting. All right, let's go here real quick because we need to make a clarification. I said an individual like Mark, right, might want to go on the internet. He's probably gonna be like, let me look up this risk. Let me look up this equation here. Let me see function of exposure and effect. So he's gonna go online. He's gonna risk assessment. He's gonna go and he might find something like this, and then he's gonna be like, ha ha, I got him. I got him. This is he's wrong. Is it this one here? Let me check. Look it up and say risk equals hazard times exposure. And I had, what do I have as the equation?
A function of exposure.
Times what?
Effect.
Yeah. So I have risk equals a function of exposure times effect. Why do you think it's different than this definition? Why am I not using hazard? The Environmental Protection Agency, I was trying to look for it. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, classifies it as hazard times exposure. Why would I not be using hazard? Is it because I'm crazy? Why am I using the effect? Why would I use hazard? Not use hazard and use the effect. Is water hazardous? You go into a store and you look at the shelf, and do they stick on a sticker there that says hazardous?
No.
No. If you go into the cosmetic area and you look up like Pantene Pro V shampoo, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that exists. It's just in my head. I think I saw an image like that. Pantene Pro V. You go look it up, and is there a hazard sticker on it?
No, they probably don't want to get people scared to buy it because they know that hazardous is a bad thing.
Well, that's one thing, but just like the water example, and those of you who know who had me in A and P1, shame on you, because you know about water. And what happened for the AP and 1ers? Come on, what happened? Tell it. Tell the story.
The girl
Water
with the pee.
Okay, whoa, not the girl with the P, but let's let's back it up there, Ivy. Let's back it up there. Go ahead.
Too much water is bad.
Too much water is bad, right? And what Ivy is saying, because some AP students don't know, so they just heard the girl with the P and they're just like, what are you all talking about? So we had to give them a little bit more information, but there was a competition and a girl drank, there was competition to hold your pee for a Nintendo Wii and to drink a bunch of water, right? So this individual died, right? Okay. But they thought it would be a harmless thing, right? Because water is not hazardous. So as a result, as a toxicologist who's trained in toxicity, I have to fall back to the beginning laws of toxicology. And the father of toxicology, Paracelsus Theophrastus, states that all things are poisonous or all things are toxic. It is the dose that differentiates a poison from a remedy. So for example, It is the dose that differentiates a poison from a remedy, which means you're out in the desert. You have been there close to 3 days. You have not drank water. I give you water. You love me. You think I am the greatest thing in the world because I gave you water now and you didn't die. That is the remedy to your survival. However, I hold you down, tie you down, put a funnel in your mouth, wrap it up in duct tape, have you bound, and I put water down your, it's called waterboarding, and I do that, it doesn't work out so well for you, right? It just doesn't work out good. But the thing that saved you could be the thing that could kill you. The non-hazardous thing can then become hazardous, right? You take an aspirin for your headache or whatever, but you take a bottle of it all in one shot and they could cause problems. So the remedy could be harmful. That is how come I don't use hazard for the, in terms of the effect. Because things that are quote unquote non-hazardous that we think are non-hazardous can be hazardous. So as a result, everything has the potential to do you harm. And as you look, next video we're gonna talk about is the woman who ate 1 pound of chocolate. And what happened to her brain? That's the next goal. The next one we're gonna talk about. That is toxicological risk assessment, ladies and gentlemen. That is how come I don't use the hazard, because it's a good one. I get it for people who understand it, but the way I'm trained is that I have to look at the effect, which could be something that is perfectly harmless to most of us. But if someone has a lot of exposure, we can ramp up that effect, okay? And we're learning this very important principle in our lab, that this kid who consumed the lead paint, he had lots of exposure. First things first, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that mom saw that child chew on them toys. Let's not be fooled. You can't tell me that the child was there for that long with those toys, unsupervised, and she never saw him going to town on the toys. And let's assume for 1 nanosecond that she didn't. Somehow, some way, let's give her the benefit of the doubt. You're gonna tell me that that mother never ever picked up the toys and put them in a box somewhere and never saw that they're all knotted on? So there was clearly some failure. I know he doesn't say that, but let's be realistic.
Maybe she didn't know that it was a different type of paint because like there are new toys right now that children just chew on, right? That are safe
Yeah.
for them. But it was
You're
from
right.
the grandma, so the paint must have been old
Yes. So
with the lead in it.
let's assume, okay, for that conversation, let's assume that she knows nothing about lead paint. Nothing about lead paint. Like she knows nothing about it. Regardless, she should have looked at those toys, but like, hey, chewing up paint is probably not a good thing. Probably not a good thing. That's my point. That you don't have to have a mother chemist to know that maybe chewing on those toys probably not the greatest thing. Like the paint is somewhere. Where did it go? Like it's missing. It probably went in his mouth. Could it hurt his tummy? Like those little basic questions, she didn't answer those. So you're right, Johnny. Of course, she probably didn't know that it had lead paint. I'm sure she didn't, because if she would have, and she knew what we know, it wouldn't have happened. But still, think of the basics. It still happened. Those toys should have been removed, and the kid went who knows how many days, as told by that other toxicologist, and as a result, irreversible neurological damage. His IQ will never be his potential. Going back to water. Now, again, remember that. That's why we don't do hazard. That's why we, in this class, I'm teaching you, we go by effect. Water. Someone mentioned that it was found in water as well. I think maybe it was Jaslyn said something about water. Now, have you ever heard of this? Here's 2016, not too long ago. Flint water crisis. What happened and why? Flint, Michigan. I am tempted to give you this document, but it's a little on the lengthy side, 27 pages. So I may just give you something else for it. Okay, to like that. This is the real like a good report, but it's a little too in depth. Maybe we were environmental talks or some other health programs. So I won't give you that. I'll probably give you a YouTube video, maybe sum it up in 10 minutes, but 27 pages, I know. I mean, hey, it's important. But have any of you heard of this situation?
Yeah, didn't they have a whole bunch of lead in their drinking water and it's still not filtered out? And they're still having problems not being able to drink the water?
Yeah. So, they had problems. Now, from my understanding, this is how it goes. They had a water source. Somebody who set lead pipes earlier. Someone set lead pipes. Who set lead pipes? Was that you, Jake? When you talk, did you say lead pipes? When we're talking about where lead comes from?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Well, someone set lead pipes. So okay. When we're talking about someone said soil, water, and something lead pipes, and I said, oh, we're gonna get to that. All right. So
Oh, I think it was Jasmine. I think.
okay. Jaslyn, did you say lead pipes?
I mentioned something about soil.
Okay, just wondering, trying to figure it out. I have all the students trying to keep a track. All right. Well, someone said lead pipes, unless it was in my head, it could be possible. But what happened is they were getting water from a source, right? Just like Uvalde, Crystal Springs get water from different wells. Now, in Flint, Michigan, and again, this is all in case you're wondering, why is this guy talking about freaking lead? Well, we know that lead is going to affect the brain. So it's kind of important, especially for our children. And we are chapter 12, central nervous system. So that's why we're talking about in lab. Just in case you were getting lost. They were getting water from a particular source. And from my understanding, don't quote me, I have to look at the beginnings part, is that the city said, you know what, we're going to get it from source B. And everything, it's gonna be cheaper for the city. Now, please note that this area of Flint, Michigan is kind of an economically disadvantaged area, all right? Therefore, the homes are not as new as maybe other places. Therefore, the inside of pipes for home use will most commonly have lead versus PVC, polyvinyl chloride, the white plastic that we see typically now. So, or brass. Brass is pretty expensive. For those who've ever done plumbing, brass is expensive. So they go to source B. But before they go to source B, they get their state environmental officials, which would be equivalent to our TCEQ, which is the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They are like our EPA of soil, water, air. And they test the water. The results look just fine. Okay, great, no problem. But what they failed to realize was that the pH from water source B and A is different. The pH from B, I believe, was a little lower than A's water supply. So as water started coming through and water goes in your pipe, so you close it, there's water all the way and it's filled. The change in pH resulted in the leaching of lead from lead pipes to be released. So this is the pipe, and it started coming out and staying within the water, and then you would drink it and you would go because it was leaching out because of the pH. This was happening over a long period of time. Doctors started noticing, like, hey, what is going on here? Kids look like their IQs are declining. Make a long story short, a lot of those children in Flint, Michigan will never reach their full potential. They have permanent neurological damage. Can you believe that? How many children of no fault of their own? That's a lot. So it is truly a national disaster. on a national level. We don't hear much about it because it's not very like dramatic for people in mass media to talk more about it and address it. How are they doing? What are we doing to help? All these things. It's not very dramatic. So it kind of falls a little bit to the wayside, unfortunately. But that is the situation. So what can you do to prevent potential exposure if your house is older? Well, using filters, different types of filters for water. Now, again, please note that lead is in the periodic table. Therefore, it is an element and it can be very, very small, right? And as a result, not all filters do a good job of filtering lead. So you have to look at it, read it, look at what you're buying to see if it can filter lead. So just giving you a little warning out there. That's the Flint, Michigan situation. And now we understand what lead does to children. It's passing through the blood-brain barrier. It's being displaced by calcium. They're saying calcium, oh, get out the way. I got this here. Going through the proton channel, affecting the mitochondria, not allowing for the ATP production. So we have brain damage. Boom, there you go. Okay, last one we will look, and the reason I want to go, that's how I want you to look at all your videos. Okay, now the other ones you're gonna see, they're more educational, like they're like reviews, okay, more animation, how this works, stuff. This one that we looked at is more case study. And look how, I'm not saying this topic is fun, but look how once you have the building blocks, once you understand the anatomy, once you start to understand the physiology, and now do you understand why the chemistry was so important with the gap finders? Divalent, anions, cations becomes very, very, very important. Before we move on, one thing I do want to show you before we move on to the next topic is the diamine tetraacetic acid, which is EDTA. It's a big mouthful. Hope I got it right. Diamine tetraacetic acid, acetic acid. Let's take a look. It's been a while since I have to say out loud the EDTA, what it stands for. This is known as EDTA. Like what? What do you mean? What do you mean EDTA? EDTA. So ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid. So I think I screwed it up the first round. This is what they begin to give the calcium disodium, right? I'm going to play it real quickly so we can take a look at this molecule. This is also has been known like a crab molecule to grab and hold. So we see that what happens here is that this was Ca, and as a result, boom, we're going to be using it as a means for lead. So due to the charges, look at that negative charge, look at that negative charge, and we have a positive, so we're going to hold it in place. This is called a chelating agent. So just like Mark used the word displace is means to swap out of. So this here is called chelating. That means grabbing. If you look at this structure over here, that's what makes it water soluble. And now that we understand what soluble means, what polar means, what's non-polar, and things have to be soluble in urine so they can be urinated out through the body. Now that we have these principles, now that we understand this, now we could look at this stuff here and say, oh, okay, I get it. But it looks intimidating at first. It looks a little intimidating. You look at it, you're like, oh boy, like what is this? This is a lot going on here. Well, not so much. If you take it piece by piece, we've covered these concepts before. So this is what they were trying to give to the little boy, and it did help reduce his levels of lead, but it wasn't enough. The chelating agent wasn't enough. Okay. Last one we will look at is chocolate. I'm gonna send that to you right now. I think it was what was it? A grandma ate 1 pound of chocolate in 6 hours. Now, some of you may be thinking with Valentine's coming along the way, maybe thinking like, I can do a pound. I got that. It's not a problem. But you're not grandma. You probably could. You probably could do it. You could do a pound. Do I recommend you eating a pound of chocolate in 6 hours? No. Have some of you probably gotten close to that? Probably. But let's not try to do that, okay? Let's not try to do that. Okay? Everything in moderation. So don't do anything like that. Later, again, we're going to be looking at the vitamin gummies. Hey, guys, just because it has gummy on the other side of that word, that doesn't mean it's just go to town and eat vitamin gummies. And we'll get into that one later. All right, this will be the last one we're going to look at. And then I'm going to go over some functions of the brain in our PowerPoint real quick, and then we'll call it a day. So I just want to train you a little bit and provide you guidance on how to approach these videos. All right, I'm trying to train you in terms of thinking like think like a toxicologist, think like an anatomist, think like an RN, think like a doctor, like all these different hats. Try to think through this process. And now do you see why I didn't put the case study in the exam? That's the reason why. Because the case studies will be done outside of exams, so you have more time to look up stuff, research it, look at it, because I don't want case studies to hurt you. They're not designed to hurt you. They're designed to help build you. So I hear Walmart has a 1 pound Hershey bar. Oh boy. I hope that is taken in moderation as well. Moderation. So let's watch that link and we'll come back. I'm gonna watch it with you. Come back and we're gonna address it as well. Okay. So grandma eats a pound of chocolate in 6 hours. What are some of the problems we begin to arise?
The headache.
Yep.
She got a stomach pain.
Okay.
Constipation.
Yeah, it's a big one there. Constipation's kind of the lead lead reason for the situation, unfortunately.
Nausea.
So what was her blood pressure? What's normal blood pressure first?
120 over 80.
Okay, 120 already. Good job, Melissa. Good job, Ruth. All right, 120 already. She comes in with what?
180 over 90.
Yeah, it's like 180, 186 over 90. So what does that mean?
It's high.
She had high
Okay.
blood pressure.
All right, Melissa?
Hypertension.
Yeah, right. So does that mean lower pressure of arterial walls or higher pressure?
Higher.
Higher, right? So what do I mean by arterial walls? Walls of the arteries, right? Walls of arteries. So that's what blood pressure is. You only have so much pressure we talked about in terms of like pipes and flow. There's only so much one can do. And as a result, as of her age and due to a lack of elasticity, what is it that reduces her elasticity due to her age?
Lack of estrogen.
That's right. Lack of estrogen. Good job. And estrogen is considered a what type of hormone?
Sex hormone.
Yeah. So as a result, it builds in collagen, lack of elasticity. Therefore, she can have along the arterial wall, specifically cerebral arteries, he shows that the tube goes like this and it has a little bump, right? It's not smooth anymore. It has that little, and that little part there is weakness. It's weakness, all right? So she's already not producing much estrogen, so she's already at risk of this, right? So she's at risk of it. And then what else happens from there? So that's, she goes in, we see the 180, 186 over 90. We know blood pressure's going up. What else happens?
They see that in her brain, like she ruptured like a blood vessel or something, and she had like a blood clot in there.
I believe subarachnoid hemorrhage. Subarachnoid hemorrhage occurs. Now we're understanding subarachnoid. Now when we look at anatomy, we're like, oh, we know where that is, subarachnoid. Now we know location and a hemorrhage. All right. Then that happens, and then as a result of hemorrhaging, bleeding, there has to be clotting, right? So then a clot then forms. Okay. And then what happens next?
They give her medication to keep the clot from breaking down.
Antifibrolytic, correct. Give her some that. They gave her that. Then what happens?
The confusion, she doesn't remember.
Yeah. Well, there is some bleeding within the space, right? Where there's bleeding, and in that area, we're not supposed to have blood in that space. Not supposed to. So as a result, and then it gets into what? Ischemia. Remember that word for this. Ischemia. It's called delayed cerebral ischemia. I wrote that one down. Delayed cerebral ischemia. So what happens now is that we have blood there, and the blood begins to break down, we know that red blood cells contain hemoglobin, which then is the reason why that's the heme group, of hemoglobin. That's why when someone is anemic, lacking of iron, they're not getting enough oxygen within the red blood cell, because you should have O2, 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 O2. So you should have 4 oxygen molecules, which is O2, O2, O2. And then if you're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 8 oxygen atoms. But we don't just breathe in oxygen by itself. We always breathe it in O2, right? So as a result, you have the heme group, and it's breaking, red blood cells breaking down. Heme then is going to do what? What is it doing?
Produces the iron-based free radicals, ruptures the brain cells.
It doesn't produce free radicals. Remember, iron from the toddler case study is charged. What it's gonna do, because it is charged, it needs balance. Everything in life wants to be balanced in our body. Everything, homeostasis. That is the name of the game. So it's charged within the heme. It's charged. It needs to be neutralized and stable, and as a result, it's going to deplete antioxidants. And the goal of an antioxidant is to stabilize free radicals. But there are no more antioxidants to stabilize the natural free radicals of the brain, because they were depleted because of the darn iron that was released from the red blood cell that was degraded. So now you are depleted of free radical, of antioxidants. So the natural free radicals. Now, where do these free radicals come from?
From hemoglobin, from the hemin.
No, they don't come from the hemin. That's not where the free radicals come from. The iron comes from the breaking of the heme. How is the brain? Let's pretend right now in Johnny's brain. He's a perfectly healthy young guy. I've met him before. So why is Johnny producing free radicals in his brain right now? Because due to every time we breathe, we take oxygen and it goes, and ATP is made, called cellular respiration. Some of the byproducts that are made from the mitochondria are byproducts known as free radicals. So every time you make ATP, you have these things that are released that are like no-nos, or not good. But we have things known as antioxidants that capture them and stabilize them. That's how come people say, if you go to a vitamin store, they always try to say, well, take some antioxidants. It'll make your skin and your face feel much better, because it's true. Aging is part of cellular respiration. And as we live longer, we are producing these free radicals, which do impact the way we look. That's a fact. And taking those vitamins that are antioxidants to help prevent free radicals, to stabilize them, are useful. That's fact. However, in this particular case, this lady's antioxidants are depleted. They are used up to stabilize the crazy iron over there that was released from the red blood cell. So now her natural free radicals produced by the brain because of the production of ATP, right, in the cell body. Now these free radicals are going around. And because you have these free radicals, they're going to cause more damage to the individual, right? And that's kind of where we're going. And you have the cerebral, what is it called? Vasospasms. So this occurred because of constipation. Largely because she was constipated due to the chocolate. So she goes restroom, she forces, increasing pressure. And we have a situation in which we have an artery that begins to bleed, and then everything goes downhill. So look how important that is, bowel movement. Wouldn't affect any one of you because your digestive systems and you produce estrogen. So two things are working for you. You have your digestive system should be working. Do I know people who don't go poop for a week? Yes, I do. It's not cool and it's disgusting. To consume food at least twice a week and you don't go poop in a week or two, got problems. Whether that's a guy or a girl, you need to eat some prunes, eat some fiber with some juice, ladies and gentlemen. Do something, because where is all the byproducts going? Where if you eat foods and we use it for energy, for metabolism, anabolism, cannibalism, and you don't go restroom in a week or two, I know some people think they're very princessy. They're like, I don't poop until a week or two. Believe me, that doesn't make you a princess. This makes you full of crap. It really doesn't make anyone a princess. It's disgusting. So make sure you do whatever you need to do, right, to handle that situation, and make sure you go poop. I know it sounds dumb and funny, and you probably think I'm being silly, but I'm serious. Like, people need to go poop. And in this case, we realized that this lady, due to everything we went through, we talked about estrogen, all this stuff we went through, and she had something that affected her long term. And now she has difficulty walking and all these things. And she was a relatively healthy lady. Relatively healthy, getting around, everything. Yeah, she needed some assistance, so she came out of the assistance living, but other than that, she was perfectly fine. So that goes to show you that digestive system is important. So there are a lot of things you can do. Prunes, Metamucil, changing different diets, making sure you're hydrated. That was a very important part. We talked about water loss in this particular case. Water, hydration, so many things you can do. Speaking on this topic of gastro situation, I had a friend who worked in Dallas for a gastroenterologist, and then she would tell me that, man, people come in and they're like, oh man, my stomach hurts so bad, and they see the specialist and they think they have colon cancer and all this stuff, and they end up getting a flush enema. It's because they haven't gone to the restroom in a while. So there's only so much expansion that the intestines can do. There's just only so much, and you don't want that to happen. Well, we did have a long lab. I get it, longer than most situations, so we will be shortening them as we go. Please make sure we'll look over the anatomy parts of the PowerPoints. I need to work on your lab exam. That's what I'll be doing till the next class comes in. Do we have any questions in terms of what we're discussing here? How many of you find these case studies interesting and applicable to what we're applying? All right, great. Yes, shoot, Ryan. Well, great. Most of you. Awesome. Great feedback. I saw Ryan with his hand raised somewhere. He disappeared. Ryan, did you have a question, or he was just doing a thumbs up?
Yeah, it was just a thumbs up.
Okay, no problem. All right, so that's our case studies. I wanted to do that with you. I won't be able to do that all the time, but take notes, write things down, and as you can see now we're really reaching a point. We're getting to the point now where if you can go through this process and you understand your basic chemistry, your basic biology, your cell biology, and you're understanding a little bit of the hormones, and you're starting to understand things, man, you are now piecing it together. You're really piecing it together. I can definitely see some students that I've had for AMP1, and I see them now, and I'm just like, wow. You may not see the difference, but I do, because I saw you when you came in at first. It was not too impressive, and to see you now, how much you shine and how much you're able to connect the dots, it is truly amazing to see that. And it's just a testament to you that you start out like any sport, and we're not usually the great. There are some that are just, or any activity, you're going to have those people who are just stellar with no practice. Stellar. And you know what's really odd? Those individuals usually have their own internal demons. They may appear perfect, but they have their own struggles too. Even the great musicians and things like that, they've had their own internal struggles. It's very fine line between genius and insanity. It's a very fine line, ladies and gentlemen. So you work hard, and I can see that through this, and as you guys contribute in this case study, which is not easy. What you're doing and what we are doing as a team, breaking down this, it's not that easy. And I'm glad that practically all of you are able to participate and do that. So I just want to say it's really cool, and I realize it, and I recognize it, and I admire it, and I want to thank you for it. So that's really awesome. All right, so I will let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your evening, afternoon. It feels evening for me, sorry. So I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and take care. Stick back if you have any questions. Thank you.
Bye. See you Thursday.
See ya. Take care.
Have a good day, sir.
Bye.
Hi, sir.
See ya.
Goodbye, sir. Have a good afternoon.
All right, you too, Alan. Take
Bye.
care.
Yo, sir. Okay.
Yes.
Dude, is it okay if I